So let's dig right into it. A bipartisan group of senators has introduced a resolution holding Saudi Arabian Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman responsible completely for a slew of transgressions, including the murder of Jamal Khashoggi. The resolution states that the Senate, quote, has a high level of confidence that Mohammed bin Salman was complicit in the murder of Khashoggi and urges the White House to hold him accountable. In addition, the resolution holds the Crown Prince accountable for his leading role in, quote, the humanitarian crisis in Yemen, preventing a resolution on the blockade of Qatar and the jailing and torture of dissidents and activists inside the kingdom, and the use of force to intimidate rivals. Just over 2 weeks ago, President Trump issued a lengthy formal statement backing the kingdom and its rulers, stating in part, quote, the world is a very dangerous place, and our relationship with the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. And later told reporters, quote, we're with Saudi Arabia. We're staying with Saudi Arabia. Meanwhile, NBC News has learned exclusively that the Saudi ambassador to the U.S. Prince Khalid bin Salman, who is a brother of the Crown Prince, has returned to the U.S. Khalid left Washington for Riyadh shortly after Khashoggi's disappearance in early October. So a lot of questions. It has been one of the things that has really confused me the most about this presidency, and that is how the administration can stand by a president who will allow the world to sow doubt in our intelligence institutions.
Well, it's not confusing at all. He's done it twice.
No, it's Mattis. It's Pompeo. I don't get it.
We've seen it openly with Donald Trump and Russia first, and now Donald Trump and Saudi Arabia. And that has to do with money. It has to do with personal money. It doesn't have to do with these phony contracts that he claims we're having. Because the numbers that he's putting forward are bogus. They're false. But what he said during the campaign, we're going to find out in a little bit, by some reporting from the Washington Post, was true. That he and the Saudis have a personal business relationship. He bragged that he made hundreds of millions of dollars from the Saudis during the campaign. Now we're finding out, even after being elected president, he's making a ton of money. But Willie, we'll get to that story in a second about how the Saudis are. I mean, you talk about just blowing a hole in the emoluments clause.
They like that Trump hotel, don't they?
They really do.
For some reason.
They liked it a lot more after Donald Trump became president of the United States. But Donald Trump said one thing that in those statements, it was correct. The world is a dangerous place, and this region is a dangerous place. But all evidence suggests that MBS is just making it more dangerous, more volatile, more deadly.
I would argue this is as clear a rebuke of the president from Republicans as we've seen. I mean, we can go through, and maybe there's been one close, but this is almost consensus now from Senate Republicans. You're right about Mattis and Pompeo, of course. But they've come out very clearly. Now they want to put into legislation something which will do what the president has been unwilling to do. The problem I have is trying to convince the president, who so publicly and so clearly has given the Crown Prince a pass. How do you come back from that? How could he now suddenly say he knows? He's heard intelligence. The president knows that the Saudi Crown Prince was behind this, and yet he's come out and taken the Crown Prince's side. How do you unwind that now? How do you come back around and say, you know what, you're right, guys. I should have been tougher on him. Here are some new sanctions. He's been clear where he stands, and now it's up to Congress to push back against the president.
And John, I guess the reason doesn't matter. I'm just curious what you think. Do you think Republicans are now speaking out and standing up to Donald Trump because of the historic thumping that Trump Republicans took a couple of weeks ago, or would this have happened anyway? Was this so blatant? The killing of a Washington Post reporter, a guy who was an American resident, who had two American children, the torture, the sawing of. I mean, why do you think Republicans are finally standing up?
Well, I don't think we'll ever know exactly the answer to that question because we can't live in a world of counterfactuals. But I do think that, Joe, you're right. I can't. It seems to me given the behavior, Willie cited the notion that this is the clearest rebuke. I think the only other rebuke that stands close to it is, in fact, the passage of Russia sanctions, when the Senate voted to sanction Russia, and the president didn't want to have that happen, and it was an overwhelming bipartisan vote, I guess now a little over a year and a half ago. In this instance, I think that there's a pretty clear line between what happened on win the midterm elections. And I can't imagine that you would have Republicans behaving the way that they're behaving right now had Donald Trump been triumphant, had Republicans held the House, had they not suffered that historic thumping. I think the political context would be wildly different. And I think when the history of this gets written, 2 years from now, we will look back and say, if the support for the president begins to crumble over time as more indictments come out and as the Mueller report comes out, we will look back and say that was the first place where the dam started to break, and it was one of the two big things that was a different world after the election. One was you saw what the political consequences of Trump's presidency have been, Republicans getting shellacked at the polls, and then secondly, the world that we'll live in after Mueller finally reports. And I think those two things are the big things now about to happen. We've seen one of them, this, and the consequences are pretty clear.
Well, Mika, it's really hard to explain to working class voters in Youngstown, Ohio, how siding up with murderous Saudi sheiks lines up with making America great again. It doesn't fit the brand. In fact, it hurts him in the polls. It hurts Republicans in the polls. It really hurts our
So
I just don't. The only explanation is money. And that is Donald Trump's personal money.
They have tapes too.
And the money that he hopes to make from the Saudis, the more money he hopes to make from the Saudis when he leaves office at the end of the first term.
All right, speaking of money, a new report is renewing questions over the potential conflicts of interest between some of President Trump's businesses and the government of Saudi Arabia. According to the Washington Post, lobbyists representing the Saudi kingdom reserved blocks of rooms at the president's Washington, D.C. hotel shortly after Trump was elected. The Post says the lobbyists locked down an estimated 500 nights at the luxury hotel over the course of just 3 months.
That's as obvious
to hang out
as the picture that they put on all of their buildings when he went there.
At least it wasn't a Ritz Riyadh situation.
500 rooms.
The paper says the lobbyists had been reserving large numbers of D.C. area hotel rooms as part of an unconventional campaign in which U.S. military veterans were given a free trip to Washington to lobby on Capitol Hill against a law the Saudis opposed. The lobbyists had previously put the vets up at hotels in Northern Virginia.
Makes more sense.
But according to the Post,
more economical.
In December of 2016, they shifted most of their bookings over to the Trump International Hotel, which the president still happens to own, spending more than $270,000 to put up 6 groups of veterans. The hotel bookings are at the center of a pair of federal lawsuits claiming that the president violated the Constitution by taking improper payments from foreign governments. A federal judge on Monday said lawyers for Maryland and Washington, D.C. can begin issuing subpoenas in the lawsuit. The Saudi embassy did not respond to the Post's requests for comment. Trump hotel executives, speaking on the condition of anonymity, told the paper they were unaware at the time that Saudi Arabia was covering the bill and declined to comment on the rates they offer to guests. So, Jackie, this is your paper's reporting, and this is just from knowing how Trump operated before he went into the White House, some of this stuff is okay in some places, in some countries. But when you go to Washington, I remember my sister-in-law, who was married to my brother, who was the ambassador to Sweden, I couldn't send her shoes. There are very clear rules, and they actually call you out and call you up if they are broken.
Well, especially as Congress reporters and a whole lot of people are wondering why the president has gone to such lengths to defend MBS and to, extend one of the longest running scandals really of the Trump presidency with the murder of Jamal Khashoggi. This is a pretty suspicious story, especially since it's come out of a pair of lawsuits alleging that Trump's violated the Constitution by taking improper payments from foreign governments.
You say suspicious because some people might say, oh, well, he just moved the rooms over. They were just getting business. It's business. What makes it more suspicious to you?
I mean, after Trump won the presidency, they moved the rooms to the Trump Hotel, spending, I think it was almost $300,000. And this story is just so layered in so many different ways. It also points out that the group that organized this, which the Saudi embassy refused to comment on, was using veterans as pawns.
Mm-hmm.
Again, John Heilemann, you don't need a Ouija board and Ellery Queen to figure this out. The president has, since 2015, when we were interviewing him about him praising Vladimir Putin. The president has steadfastly defended Putin and Russian atrocities. And he's, we can find quotes from his sons saying that, most of their money they get from Russians.
Right.
And you also, at the same time, now we're finding out at the same time they were chasing a deal in Moscow.
Yeah.
And here with the Saudis, the president, we can show you one clip after another. The president bragging about how they love Trump, how they buy, quote, lots of Trump toys, how, they've spent over $100 million giving Trump money. And so here you have two foreign policy matters where the president's thinking not only doesn't make sense, but it's out of line with the thinking of Republicans and Democrats in the Senate and the House, and radically out of line with the facts presented by the intel community. This is not hard.
No, not a complicated story. And 500 hotel rooms, that's like more than like a normal, like kind of Scarborough golf weekend, right? That's like more than that's larger than
because that I'm the type of guy to go on golf.
Yeah, and bring 600, 700 of your friends.
Yeah,
right?
Let's see. How many of those, Willie, would you guess? Over under being one. How many golf
I'm going to take the under Nintendo Wii golf weekends.
Maybe.
Yes, well, that's what I meant.
Well, that would
that's what I meant.
Maybe back when
the Wii enabled.
Remember when W was governor and they said that he'd play that video golf for about 2 hours a day?
Yeah.
Maybe I played a little
Wii golf. Wii golf.
Golden tee.
Again, you can't say it enough times, and one of the things I think we say it a lot on this show, but you can't say it enough times. The President of the United States ran for president not thinking he would win, not thinking he would get the Republican nomination, not thinking if he got it that he would then become president. The whole thing was set up to be a way to try
to brand enhancement, right?
Yes.
And a money-making venture.
And those two things obviously linked, and enhancing the international profile. The guy had spent the previous decade with his friend Michael Cohen running around the world trying to not just do what he'd done in the United States, which was to use the Trump name to make more money. This was a great opportunity to increase not just his profile, but his international profile, and to be able to use this as a biz dev opportunity. After he presumably lost, either as the nominee or in the general election, he would then go on and be in a great position to maximize revenues, maximize profits going forward on the basis of this. And with Trump, the thing you would have thought, though, any normal businessman running for president who had those ideas, was that once he won the presidency, he would abandon those things and say, well, I didn't think I was going to win, but now I'm president and I got to be president. But no, he went into the White House thinking, well, I'm not going to, I got into this for the money. I'm not going to abandon that primary objective. And so he has used the White House in ways that we are now seeing, people have been talking about for a year and a half. He's using the White House to make money while being president and to try to enhance his opportunities to make more money after being president.
And again, if you want to focus on what he's doing, that's the prism you always have to look at.
Right.
There's a reason why the night Donald Trump got elected, he looked like he had been jabbed by a cattle prod. Melania was crying. Mike Pence's wife was angry. And the scene looked more like, a scene out of Awake than a hotel room where everybody just learned somebody was elected president. They didn't expect it. They didn't want it.
He's about money and business. That's all he's ever been about his entire life and continues to be that way. You know who else thought these hotel stays were strange?
Who?
The veterans who were staying in them. Seriously, if you read through this piece, they say, I've been with a lot of veterans groups. I've never stayed in an $800 a night hotel. These are bootstrap groups who get by on the generosity and donations of other people. They immediately thought it was weird. They didn't know about the Saudi connection, but they had some red flags themselves.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.